The irony in relationships with a narcissist is this: everything truly begins only after you leave. When you were still there, they never really saw you. They only saw themselves reflected through your eyes, through the love you gave, through the pain you endured. In their perception, you were never an independent being. You were a mirror, a stage, an echo confirming that they were still special. But when that mirror falls, when you stop reflecting, stop explaining, stop struggling, something strange happens. The very thing that once made them feel most alive begins to vanish: attention. And for a narcissist, losing attention is like losing oxygen. From that moment, a chain reaction begins in their mind, like a system that's just lost its power source. At first, curiosity. Is she still thinking about me? Then doubt. Why has she been silent for so long? Then control. I need to make her react. And when there is no response comes anger, smear campaigns, and finally, emptiness. Jung once said, "What we deny in ourselves comes back to us as fate." And indeed, when you withdraw from the game, they are left face to face with what they've been running from all their lives themselves. No one left to blame, no one to impress, no one to illuminate the shadow they call I. In this video, we won't talk about you, the one who has awakened and walked away, but about them. Those now spiraling through the 7 stages of collapse after losing control. 7 stages that may appear different, yet are all part of the same vortex from illusion to the realization of nothingness. Stage 1. Curiosity and the illusion of confidence. In the first stage after you leave, the narcissist doesn't feel pain, at least that's what they think. Instead of sadness, they feel curiosity, a mix of surprise and disdain. They believe you're just playing games. In their world, everyone who leaves eventually comes back, because everything revolves around them. So they don't feel loss, they feel entertained. She just wants attention, they think. Fine, I'll let her wait. She'll come crawling back. In this phase, their ego is at its peak, while their awareness is at its lowest. They mistake your silence for strategy, not awakening. Their mind behaves like a play interrupted mid-scene. They still believe they're the main character, and you're just a side actor taking a break off stage. Because they can't fathom that you, the one who cried, begged, endured, could truly walk away without looking back. To them, love was never a meeting between 2 souls. It was always a transaction between controller and controlled. During this phase, they talk about you with indifference. She's weak. He'll come back. Those words aren't statements of fact, they're spells against a quiet terror. The fear that this time, they've actually lost their power. Psychologically, this is the ego's attempt to convince itself it's still safe. Jung called this the compensatory mechanism of the ego. When faced with collapse, it inflates itself to avoid helplessness. Because admitting you could leave forever means facing something unbearable, that they were never loved, only tolerated. Yet even as they pretend to be calm, reality begins to leak through the cracks. The moment they almost post something just so you'd see it but hesitate. The moment they unlock their phone at midnight, unconsciously checking if you're still active. The moment their voice falters when retelling a story that has your name in it. That's when the first fracture appears in their false world, small but irreversible. Because beneath the surface confidence, a question begins to echo quietly in the subconscious. What if she doesn't come back? A small question, but it's the first spark of collapse. For a narcissist can live in lies forever until the real world goes silent around them. And your silence is that reality, quiet, steady, yet louder than anything they've ever heard. Stage 2, surveillance and probing. When curiosity is no longer enough to sustain the illusion, they start searching quietly, methodically, obsessively. Gone are the grand displays and public boasts. Now come the sleepless nights, scrolling through your profile, reading every line, pausing on every picture, inventing stories in their head. For normal people, someone leaving means learning to let go. But for a narcissist, your departure isn't an ending, it's an insult. In their world, You're not allowed to disappear without their permission. So they come back not to love, but to verify that you still belong to them. They watch your stories, decode your captions, try to guess where you are and who you're with. When they find nothing, they start creating traces, anonymous views, fake accounts, half messages, anything to remind you they still exist. In their mind, if you still notice their presence, they still have power. But here's the twist. The more they look, the less they find. No sad posts, no emotional hints, no open doors left to enter. And when they can't find you, they begin to feel something they've avoided their whole lives: invisibility. It's a feeling a narcissist cannot bear. Their entire existence depends on being seen, on echoes of attention, on the sense that they are still being reflected. Now, your silence feels like an endless void where their voice no longer echoes back. They knock, but no one opens. They shout, but there's no sound. At a deeper psychological level, this is when the darkness begins to move. Jung called it the dismantling of the persona, when the social mask cracks because it no longer receives external validation. They start to feel strange inside. Why am I restless? Why do I still care about someone I no longer need? The all-powerful self begins to reveal tiny fractures of fear, and each late-night check on you is a self-soothing attempt to prove, I still matter. But the paradox is this: the more they try to prove they're unaffected, the more they expose their dependency. Only those still haunted need to keep convincing themselves they're free. Every time they whisper, I don't need her, their hand unconsciously reaches for the screen, searching for your name. This is no longer care, it's an addiction to control. Not out of love, but because the loss of dominance terrifies them. It's like someone who's always breathed through another person suddenly losing oxygen. From curiosity, they shift into obsession. And within that obsession, they no longer find you. They find themselves wandering in the darkness once lit by your light. They call your name, but in truth, they're calling the part of themselves they lost long ago. In that silence, a new emotion begins to rise. Real fear. Not the fear of losing you, but the fear of losing their ability to define you. Because when you're beyond their gaze, the story they tell the world and themselves starts to lose meaning. Without a witness, their words become empty. And nothing terrifies a narcissist more than a world that no longer believes their story. That's why they can't stop watching. Because they're not searching for you anymore. They're searching for the reflection of themselves in a world where you no longer exist. Stage 3. Provocation and reaction baiting. When stalking no longer gives them answers, the narcissist shifts from watching to acting. They cannot tolerate not knowing what you're thinking. To them, silence isn't normal, it's rebellion. And when your silence lasts too long, they must do something to make you speak. That's when they begin sending signals, a cryptic story, a nostalgic post, a sudden message. Just wanted to know if you're okay. Fake. But behind that gentle tone lies a test. Will she react? Because for them, any reaction, anger, coldness, or kindness is proof they still have emotional access to you. If you reply, they breathe again. If you don't, they escalate. They start accidentally showing up in your usual places, asking mutual friends about you, or dropping your name in conversation just to see how the ripples spread. They might post photos with someone new or make suggestive remarks like, people are so much easier to read these days. All of it serves one purpose: to disturb your peace. The narcissist knows exactly how to hurt you, not through violence, but through insinuation. They remember your sensitivity, your empathy, your tendency to analyze every detail. So they scatter fragments of information vague enough to make you fill in the blanks. If you post something ambiguous, they'll answer with something even more cryptic. That's how they play a cold, passive, precise psychological chess game. The truth is, they don't want you back, they just want to break your composure. If you get angry, they win. If you explain, they win. If you defend yourself to others, they win. Because the moment you react, you've stepped back onto their stage and they have an audience again. But what they never expect is when you stop seeing their performance as a threat. When you scroll past their story without flinching. When you no longer decode their hidden meanings. That's when the real cracks begin to show. Because they realize all their efforts no longer control you. They only expose their own desperation. Every failed attempt to provoke you forces them to confront their deepest fear, the loss of influence. That's why they become erratic during this phase. One day distant, the next day gentle, the following day cruel. Not because they're complex, but because they're desperately trying to reclaim a lost sense of power. And when provocation no longer works, they move to the next weapon attacking your image. If they can't control your emotions, they'll try to control how others see you. That's when the smear campaign begins. Stage SA, smear campaign, and story reversal. They'll never outright say, "She's terrible." They'll say it in subtler ways. "I don't want to speak ill of anyone, but she's changed a lot, not like she used to be. I tried my best, but in the end I was betrayed." These half-statements are sparks, seemingly harmless, yet designed to ignite doubt. When others start to wonder, could that be true? The narcissist has already succeeded. You lose credibility, and they regain control of the narrative. This is their signature move reversal of roles. From perpetrator to victim, from the one who was left to the one betrayed, from manipulator to the person who tried everything. Why do they do it? Because their ego cannot bear the truth that you left because of them. Admitting that would mean facing themselves, and that's unbearable. So they rewrite the story. In their version, they remain the misunderstood one, and you become the villain. In reality, they don't care how many people believe it. They only need a temporary illusion that they're still controlling the story. The more people who listen, the less they have to hear their own conscience. You'll notice them becoming very active during this stage, posting vague emotional statuses, sharing philosophical reflections, sometimes pretending to be heartbroken, other times appearing enlightened. Some even reach out to your friends polite, yet poisonous. "I just hope she's okay. I think someone's influencing her. I don't want to badmouth her, but she's not well." Their words are never meant for reconciliation. They are a performance, a way to reclaim the stage. If they can't control you, they'll control the narrative. If they can't make you react directly, they'll make you hear about yourself through others. And if you react, they win again. Because to them, your defense isn't truth. It's proof that you still care. But if you stay silent, their story starts to self-destruct. Without an opposing actor, their lines lose coherence. People begin to notice a pattern across their past relationships. They're always the victim. Once or twice might be coincidence. 10 times is not. This is where the illusion visibly cracks. Outwardly, they speak louder than ever. Inwardly, they're panicking. Because the story they built to cover their shame is losing its believers. No applause, no audience, no you. And when the smear campaign fails, they must finally face what they've always avoided, reality. A reality without you to manipulate, without anyone left to absorb their emptiness. That's when the true collapse begins. Quiet, internal, irreversible. It's not an explosion, it's erosion. The slow disintegration of a person realizing that destroying your name never restored their power. It only revealed their isolation. Stage 5. When they begin to collapse from within. After all the smear campaigns and story rewriting have failed, the narcissist falls into a void. No one left to blame. No one left to listen to their self-pity. No you to react, and no one who truly cares anymore. At first, they still try to keep up appearances. They post cheerful pictures, talk about new beginnings, claim they're doing great. But inside, everything begins to disintegrate. For the first time in their life, there's no one left to reflect them. The new people they turn to don't give them the same sense of power. The old stories they once used to gain sympathy now sound repetitive and exhausting. And you, the one they once devalued and blamed, are calm, steady, and becoming more peaceful. That contrast drives them mad. Psychologically, this is when their narcissistic supply runs completely dry. With no one left to feed them emotional energy, they must face themselves, and that is what they fear most. You might notice their mood swings. One day they speak of forgiveness, the next they drip with bitterness. Morning optimism turns to midnight despair. With no one left to project onto, all their negativity turns inward. That's when insomnia starts, irritability grows, and depression sets in. Many reach for alcohol, work, or new flings, anything to fill the void. But the more they try to forget, the more they remember not you as a person, but the feeling of power they once had over you. They're addicted to control, and without someone to manipulate, they don't know what to do with themselves. This collapse doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, quiet erosion, lonely and exhausting. People who once admired them start keeping their distance. Those who once believed their victim stories begin to see the truth. They're exposed, not in a dramatic scandal, but through the quiet withdrawal of one relationship after another. And in that isolation, everything they've ever done begins to echo back. All the lies, the performances, the manipulation now met with silence. When they speak, no one believes. When they play the victim, no one listens. For the first time, they feel truly small. This is when the narcissist realizes the power they thought they had was never real. It existed only because someone allowed it, and that someone was you and you've stopped allowing it. Some will try to rebuild their image, exercising, traveling, preaching, fresh starts. But if you look closely, their eyes lack joy. They are tired eyes trying to hide confusion and loss. They are living like someone gasping for air in a room with no oxygen. This collapse isn't their end. It's the most subtle punishment possible. No one is hurting them. No one is taking revenge. It's simply truth stripping away every illusion they once lived by. And the cruelest irony of all, what hurts them most isn't losing you. It's realizing that you're fine without them. Your peace is the final confirmation that their power has died. Stage 6. Rebuilding illusion through a new person or a new self. After falling into emptiness, the narcissist can't stay silent for long. To them, the void feels like a room without air. Stay too long and they'll suffocate. So they must breathe again. And the fastest way to do that is to create a new illusion. Sometimes that illusion takes the form of a person, a new supply. Other times it's more sophisticated, a better version of themselves. Either way, the goal is the same. To prove they're fine, maybe even better than ever. You'll notice sudden changes. They start talking about positive energy, healing, moving on. They post travel photos, inspirational quotes, or flaunt a new sweet relationship. But look closely. Everything happens too fast, too forced, too staged. In truth, they don't love the new person. They love the admiration that person gives them. That new partner is just a fresh audience in the same old theater, unaware that the script has been performed many times before. For a few weeks they shine radiant, magnetic, confident. Then the old script returns. Control, demands, boredom. Because deep down they are still the same new stage, same character. Those without a new partner choose to reinvent themselves. They start speaking about rebirth, learning from mistakes, becoming my best self. Out. But if you listen carefully, every sentence circles back to the ego. I've changed. I'm becoming my best version. I don't need anyone anymore. It's just another way to deny the emptiness inside. If true change had happened, they would stay quiet, reflect, take responsibility, but they can't. They can't tolerate vulnerability, so they wear a new mask to escape it. The more they fear facing themselves, the more they perform. The lonelier they are, the happier they pretend to be. The more they lose, the more they act like they've let go. Outsiders might believe it, but they don't. They know that their peace exists only online, in the reflection of others' eyes. When the lights go out and no one is watching, the truth returns emptiness, fatigue, meaninglessness. That's why every one of their rebirths ends the same way. Burnout. The truth is they are not reborn. They are just recycling illusions, replacing you with someone else, replacing pain with a new performance. But beneath it all remains the same addiction, the addiction to being reflected. Without an outer light, they have no idea who they are. And the paradox is this: the harder they try to prove they're fine, the more they reveal their collapse. People around them begin to notice the repetition. The new supply starts to see the same darkness you once knew. Their healing words start to sound hollow. Their happy photos start to look fake. Everything begins to crack. And when no one believes, no one admires, no one feeds them energy, the narcissist enters the final stage: obsession and disintegration. Stage 7. Obsession and inner disintegration. When the final masks have fallen, when the new supply no longer gives them power, when their healing performances convince no one anymore, the narcissist enters the last stage: obsession and internal collapse. At first, they still try to pretend they're fine. They smile, work, and even convince themselves that it's all behind me. But the harder they try, the more drained they become. Because no one can live forever through a false image when their soul has already decayed inside. They begin to obsess over you not out of love, but because you were the last connection between them and the feeling of being alive. In their mind, you become the symbol of what they can never possess: truth. They secretly check your life, look for subtle signs, trying to decode whether you still think of them. But what terrifies them most is realizing you've truly moved on. You don't hate, you don't explain, you don't speak. You've simply disappeared from their universe. And without your reflection, their ego starts to collapse. It doesn't feel like a sharp pain. It's more like life force slowly leaking out day by day, piece by piece. During this stage, everything they once clung to dissolves. They no longer trust the new person. They no longer believe their own words. They no longer recognize the strong image they built. They don't even trust their own emotions anymore. A cold numbness seeps into their core, and for them, that is hell. You might notice they seem off, quieter, distant, smiling without warmth. Some turn to extreme distractions. Others bury themselves in work, and a few try to come back to you pretending to be remorseful. But all of it is nothing more than a desperate attempt to escape the emptiness devouring them. Because they finally realize there's no one left to pump life into them. This isn't punishment. It's a natural consequence of living too long on borrowed energy. When there's no one left to drain, they're forced to face the part they've always denied: the hollow, fragile, terrified self. And when they look at it, they freeze, because they've never learned to love, never learned responsibility, never learned how to simply be. Some completely collapse, falling into depression, confusion, even panic. Others try to rebuild another illusion, but each one is weaker than the last. Because you're gone, and deep down, they know there will never be another you. Only you, the one who once looked at them with genuine eyes, ever made them feel real. And they destroyed that with their own hands. In silence, they remain haunted by you, not because they want you back, but because they cannot accept that you no longer belong to them. They may pretend to forget, but each time they see someone who resembles you or hear a song that reminds them of you, the void rises again. It doesn't disappear. It just waits quietly until it whispers to them once more: you lost. Lost not in love, but in the very game of control they created. Because while they're still stuck asking, how do I regain control? You are somewhere else, in a place where control no longer matters. A place called peace. A place they can never reach. And that is the final punishment. No one destroyed them, only your absence. No one avenged you, only your silence. No one defeated them, only reality itself. That they lost the only person who ever truly saw them. In the end, you'll realize something simple yet profound. They didn't collapse because they lost you. They collapsed because they lost control over you. From the moment you went silent, their entire world began to crack. The lies stopped working. The manipulation stopped yielding results. And without someone to mirror them, they no longer knew who they were. The 7 stages you've just witnessed, curiosity, surveillance, provocation, smearing, collapse, illusion rebuilding, and disintegration, are really just one endless loop. The loop of someone who cannot live truthfully with themselves. But you, once you stepped out of it, entered an entirely different reality. You don't need their apology. You don't need their admission of guilt. You don't need to prove you were right. Because true freedom isn't about winning, it's about no longer having to play their game at all. They will keep searching for someone new to replay the same old script, because that's the only way they know how to feel alive. But deep down, they know that what they had with you can never be replicated, because you were never supply. You were the real mirror. And when that mirror walks away, darkness is all they have left. As for you, the one who was once made to doubt yourself, who walked through pain, confusion, and loss, you are no longer the same. You now understand that your silence is no longer fear, but a boundary. No longer avoidance, but power. No longer weakness, but freedom. Because in the end, true victory doesn't come when they hurt. It comes when you no longer hurt because of them. When you no longer feel anger, no longer wait, no longer need to explain. You simply are calm, centered, and sovereign. While they remain trapped in their obsession, you've already moved far beyond to a place they can't reach, not because you're hiding, but because you've transcended. You no longer belong to their story. You are living a chapter they can only watch from afar, but will never comprehend. And that is the real ending, without noise, without hatred. Just 2 parallel realities. One where they stay imprisoned in their own darkness, and one where you walk forward in the light of awareness,